everyone, I'm Adrienne Everheart, your feminine energy dating and relationship coach. Today in this video, I'm going to talk about when a man sends you unwanted sexual texts, or maybe there may be a little bit desired even, their flirty sexual texts. I'm going to tell you how to respond to those over text and what to even do in person when and if you see him next. So stick around, I can't wait to talk about how to respond to a man's sexual text. Now, for a lot of you, when you think of a man sending you an unwanted sexual text, it's usually the dick pic. And recently I was watching a television show in which a guy's two friends couldn't believe he hadn't sent a girl a dick pic yet. Because him and this girl had been chatting for a couple of days now, and they said, no, you need to let a girl know what she's, who she's talking to and what you have to offer her. So this is something important to do. And the funny thing is, the reason that we laugh about that is that there is probably a little bit of what a man's thinking right now. And remember, men do not think the way that we think, that women think. And to a man, he might want to say, hey, before you invest any further with me, I am going to show you exactly what I'm made of at my finest moment. So to a woman, though, we are seeking a relationship in most cases. Definitely we were willing to date and get to know someone. But in most cases, a woman's wanting to have a relationship. A man is wanting to have something sexual to do with you first. And if it leads to love, that's great. But in most cases, it's just sex, okay? So that's the reality. Don't be too upset about this. Just because a guy sends you a dick pic, which thankfully rarely, if ever, happened to me, but I think there was something in my vibe and my energy that guys kind of knew better, and I'm going to touch on that a little later in this video. And you can get him there. He'll get there on his own, of course, but he gets there by following your lead. So the number one thing to keep in mind is when a man has sent you an unwanted sexual text, it is going to trigger you in some way, positively, negatively in most cases. We normally don't want to have something like that sprung on us. Forgive me for that, if you will, but springing something on you that you're not quite ready for and you didn't ask for. So when you get a trigger, the first thing you want to do is notice you're going to have a reaction. You're going to feel scared. You might feel really sad. You maybe really like this guy. You're going to have some sort of physical reaction. And then that's your trigger to what's happening to you. And you really get your power as a powerful feminine energy woman when instead of jumping immediately to close down, shut down, delete him, immediately get rid of him, which, believe me, is always your right to do if you want to do it. But instead of jumping to that, you can just find out what you feel in your body and use this man for a little bit of practice. Now, in a lot of cases, a man is testing you. It's definitely a lot of different reasons a man would send something like this, but he might actually be testing you and kind of curious, like, what are you going to do when I send you this, or when I say this to you? How are you going to respond? What's this girl going to do? What's she like? And this is where you can really let a man know your value. And you don't have to come off like the most perfect, zipped up woman in the world. I want you to really find what you feel in your body. If a guy had sent me something like that back in the day, my trigger was to shame him. I'm not that type of girl. How dare you? Don't you ever talk to me again. That was coming from that place when really, most of the time, I felt really scared if a guy sent me something like that. So fast forward to a real experience that happened to me. I was on a date with a man that I had really been looking forward to back when I was single. And he had a very good career and we had chatted a little bit. We were meeting at a really nice place. And lo and behold, but during the date, he tells me very early on, hey, you got nice tits. And I just shattered inside. I was really hoping this would go somewhere and he would turn out to be someone different, but instead he's just like all the other men in the world. He's just focusing on a physical trait I have. So in that moment, I was so sad. I felt totally triggered, but I was practicing my tools. my feminine energy tools. And I looked at this man who was just beaming and very proud to be out with me. He was a little bit older than me, and he seemed so proud of himself to say this to me. And if you think about it, part of what you are doing in dating is making a sexual connection. I mean, ultimately, you are hoping to find out that you have some sort of sexual chemistry with each other. It's something that you're going to explore pretty soon in the relationship to see if the two of you align and match up. And hopefully it's both something that both of you want to have in a relationship. So it's not too far off the grid here. The problem is he's saying it to me on a first date, and it's shocking me. Before there's any talk of, anything else in the relationship, like being in a committed relationship or actually being intimate. He's jumping right to this. So it kind of shocks us, it triggers us. Notice what you feel in your body. Well, in that moment, I felt really sad. But I could also notice that this was a compliment of sorts, and that we are there to be a little sexually interested in each other. So I told this man, I got very, very quiet, and he said, uh-oh, did I mess up? And I said, I'm flattered that you think everything looks nice, but a part of me feels really sad hearing this. And he, of course, went to, oh no, I'm so sorry. I don't want to make you feel sad. You've got no reason to feel sad. You're a beautiful woman. And he just came with all these compliments. And I listened and I listened. And again, I dropped into my body. What am I feeling? I was really happy that he was choosing, instead of being angry or anything else, he was choosing to be really empathetic and sweet and apologetic. And I said, well, it feels really nice that, to hear these apologies. And again, I appreciate the compliment on one level, but we just don't know each other that well. And so it feels strange to hear it from me. And I guess I got a little sad because I was hoping that there would be something different for us. And that is when everything got very real for a moment. And I could tell this man, and I wasn't expecting it, but I could tell in that moment, he was like, what a jerk I've been. Immediately, he felt that way about himself. Now, this is a very slippery slope that you're going to experience with men whenever they say something sexual to you that you are not receiving well. They're going to feel shamed and bad about themselves and guilty and perhaps never talk to you again because of how bad they feel about themselves. So it's not like you want to save them from that world. That's their choice if they want to feel totally bad about themselves for what they've said. Maybe they should. Maybe this is something that they need to experience in their unfolding on this planet and in the dating world with people. That they're going to lose a potentially wonderful, amazing woman like yourself. But I noticed he started to feel bad about himself, and my instinct was to touch his hand and say, oh, don't feel bad. And the truth is, I did do that. I did reach out and say, oh, don't feel bad about it. And then I found myself apologizing for him feeling bad. And it still didn't work out with this guy. Things definitely changed after that. And we stayed on the subject like a little too long. So the best advice I can give you in that scenario is fight that feeling that you need to make everything okay. That you need to somehow put the conversation back on track. I would have much rather just sat there and sipped my drink and just sort of been like, well, what now? Because I'm not there to lead the show. The man is there in his masculine energy to lead. So I hope that these tips have been helpful. If a guy says something to you, sends you a dick pic, says something sexual to you, you want to notice that you're going to get triggered, stay in your body, and don't go in to try to fix it or make the situation better. If a man goes on and tells you how horrible he feels about himself for saying that, and he really can't get over it or whatever, you have to say, well, I'm willing to try again, or I'm curious to see where this goes. You have that option to say to him as well. Now, if a man sends you a dick pic and you've just started chatting with him, I really suggest you let a man know how you feel about this. One part of you can say, wow, on one hand, I appreciate you sharing if that's what you feel. Or another part is, I feel really shocked whenever a guy does this. A man could be sending a dick pic for a lot of reasons. A man might possibly want to shock you. He might want to just play with women online and have no interest or intent on dating them. And that's one of the reasons why in FEM Tools for Dating, I teach you how to go from having a couple of text messages with a person to a date immediately, because you're not here for someone's entertainment. So if you tell a man, wow, I feel shocked, or I feel really scared seeing that, or that feels really uncomfortable for me, and you're able to put it out there, I do believe there is something energetically that happens that shuts some doors on things like that happening to you more often. I am a believer in that if something scares you or upsets you, you have to face it head on, be in your body, know what you're feeling, and ultimately protect yourself and do whatever you want to do to take care of yourself. If a man sends you a dick pic, you can immediately delete him. You don't even need to give it another moment's thought. Whatever you do, please don't also send the picture to one of my groups and talk about how upset you are. Because again, this is just stirring up more of that energy around you. So you want to either delete it immediately, or you want to tell the man how this feels. Like, this feels really scary to see. I'm really happy for you, but those pictures always scare me. I'm not looking for a sexting relationship. Boundary. You let the guy know. And then maybe just see a text or two later what else he has to say. Now, I have actually had a couple of clients early on get a dick pic from a man, and they actually ended up going on a date with the guy because the guy was otherwise a really nice guy. And they had had a wonderful conversation and connection with the man. So in the people that I'm thinking of that this happened with, eventually it did not work out, these relationships or these situations, because the guy was definitely coming from a mindset, a starting point of, experimenting with the person and testing a person's boundary in this space. Now, the women that I spoke to, they did say that they felt like the man was kind of guilty or ashamed for having done that. And a lot of times a guy might say, I don't even know why I did that, or I don't know why I did or said such a thing. And you have to just let them know, well, okay, I guess we all do things that we're not really sure why we've just done them. But here's how I feel. Here's my boundary on it. So you're always going to have that trigger, find what you feel in your body, and be able to speak it, either delete him, get rid of him, let him know how you feel, but ultimately have your boundary. Have your boundary in place. And if you're willing to experiment with a guy and just see where it goes out of curiosity and out of practice for you, go for it. All right, I hope these tips have been helpful about what to do with an unwanted sexual text. And occasionally you might get a sexual text you're really happy to have. The rules are the same. Go into your body, find what you feel, and express it without shaming or guilting. That's a tough one to do with men. So often any little thing we say can shame them or guilt them. And so being in your body, staying in this place about what's happening for you, but ultimately having your boundary, that's the big difference there. All right, everybody, I hope this video has been fun and helpful for you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And please hit subscribe if you haven't already. I would love for you to join me sometime for a live video and live chat. Much love. Mwah. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.